Everything kicks off in a lavish VIP delivery room. A woman, cool as ever, is flipping through a magazine while about to give birth. But her chill runs out fast. She snaps at the nurses, demanding they get the baby out already, all without even putting the magazine down. Then it happens. A baby's cry pierces the air. A staff member rushes out, congratulating the grandfather with excitement. The room fills with guests showering Miss Liu with praise. He nods in gratitude, soaking in the compliments, then casually asks a maid where Shikuin is. She informs him the young master had business on Earth. That flips a switch. The grandfather's face darkens as he curses his son for being a no-show, calling him a useless deadbeat. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream echoes from the delivery room, freezing everyone in place. Worried, Liu bolts up, demanding to know what's going on. Inside, the mother is stunned. A brilliant light is radiating in front of her eyes. The grandfather and his men rush in and instantly stop cold. The light source? The newborn. Lightning crackles around the baby's body, golden and wild, and the little guy looks like he's having the time of his life. From within, the baby smirks mentally. Who would have thought a lowly commoner like him would be reincarnated into this powerful clan and awaken a divine sense? A system screen pops up. Lightning-type divine sense activated. Current power, sea level. The grandfather is floored. His grandson just awakened a power he could never achieve himself. His cane drops. With wide eyes and trembling hands, he exclaims about the unparalleled divine sense the boy now holds. Scooping the child up, he roars with joy. The Liu clan has birthed a once-in-a-generation genius. But inside, the baby has his own twisted plans. This is a shot to claim everything from the clan and make sure his pathetic father never reincarnates again. The maids gush over how the baby didn't cry and even smiled, a mark of noble destiny. The elder steps forward, vowing to invest everything the clan has into raising this child. Our MC, meanwhile, is reflecting. 6 months have passed since that traitor ended his last life. It all feels surreal. Flashback to 1 month after reincarnation. His mother drinks a special tonic given by her maid. Instantly, a golden light surges across her body. That's when it started accelerated growth. Even as an embryo, he reached D level. He realizes that normal people could never touch the kind of power the clans have. And yet here he is, already achieving what others can only dream of. Still, this ability puzzles him. There's no record of it anywhere. 2 months later, things get dicey. The original embryo in the womb starts absorbing him, but thanks to his ability, he devours it instead and absorbs its lightning-type divine sense. Jackpot! With one of the rarest elemental powers now his, the MC grins. He's going to suck this clan dry of all its resources and come out unstoppable. By month 3, he's already reached intermediate lightning level. Things are accelerating fast. Then things get awkward. Back in the mother's bedroom, there's lingerie scattered across the floor. On the bed, she's hooking up with a blonde guy while her baby's still in the belly. He asks if she's afraid, and she shrugs it off. Their marriage is just for politics. But the MC hears everything. The man questions if the kid is even his. His mother ignores it, craving more. The chaos disrupts the baby's energy absorption. Annoyed, he releases a burst of energy inside the womb. She winces in pain, complaining it burned her from the inside out. At 6 months, he hits peak D level. He finally understands his mother's constitution. Just then, a calm, handsome man stares at her belly. When is this brat coming out already? He mutters. Inside, the baby glares back with burning hatred. He remembers that face. Cue the flashback. In his past life, he was in a desperate battle. One of his injured companions urged him to escape, but he hesitated and watched as a monster devoured his friend alive. That's when the betrayal hits. A comrade, grinning wickedly, feeds his team to a beast to form a spirit core. As he watches, a massive spike skewers him through the chest. He gasps, stunned. The traitor laughs, mocking him for being so naive. As the MC is tossed aside like garbage, he accuses the scumbag of setting him up. His last thoughts? His sisters, the little ones he promised to come home to. He remembers leaving them at the door, 3 innocent faces waiting by the window, staring at the moon, hoping their brother would return. Back to the present. The rage burns inside the womb. He swears vengeance on the man who tore his family apart, and he lets it fly. A solid punch from inside the womb slams into the father's face, sending him crashing. The woman gasps, shocked by the powerful kick. The father hits the floor, groaning in pain, completely clueless. She curses the brat for acting out before he's even born. The grandfather demands an update. A nurse explains that the young master's development is abnormal. His talent is off the charts. And now, labor's kicking in. The baby is ready. Our MC thinks back. In his old life, Peak D level was his cap. But now, he's about to break through. The mother, overwhelmed by pain, screams for the best delivery team. And by the time he turns 1 month old, the Liu family is already throwing a grand banquet to honor his birth. Several major families from southern Shao arrive at the banquet, bringing luxurious gifts to celebrate the newborn's arrival. During the festivities, the grandfather relaxes, watching a violin performance with a maid beside him. Meanwhile, the 1-month-old protagonist is quietly resting in another maid's arms. One of the guests steps forward to congratulate Master Liu on becoming a grandfather, but the elder seems lost in thought. Another guest congratulates the baby's father, unaware of the tension that brews behind the infant's calm eyes. The baby stares intensely at the man before him, the same man who took him down in his past life. Rage simmers inside him as he recognizes the traitor who tore him away from his sisters. Right then and there, he swears revenge. In his memories, he recalls his little sisters brimming with excitement over a giant birthday cake. Back then, he had been on the phone with Brother Chun, who was nagging him about being late for a mission. He apologized, and the traitor, thinking he was just some desperate guy chasing money, coldly reminded him to be smarter. The young man had thanked him for the opportunity. His sisters, full of anticipation, waited for even a tiny piece of cake. Before leaving, he told one of them he had a job to do but would return soon. He grabbed his weapon bag, slung it over his shoulder, and stepped out. The door closed behind him, leaving the 3 little girls waiting, gazing at the moonlight through the window, wondering when their brother would return. Elsewhere, a man approached a glowing portal in the middle of a dark forest. Smoking a cigarette, he was the same guest seen earlier congratulating young Master G at the party. Young Master G, clearly the leader of a dangerous mission, stood with his subordinates. He asked about the progress, and the man reported that they'd been inside for a while. The beast should be well fed by now. G praised Old Chin's efficiency and turned to a female companion, saying they came all the way just for her. But the woman scoffed, dismissing him as just another G family lowlife trying to climb a ladder. Together, the group of traders stepped through the portal and left the desolate forest behind. Meanwhile, one of the hero's comrades warned of a nearby powerful beast. G, surprised that someone was still alive, noted that more food was needed for his medicine. Old Chun seemed confused. Everyone was supposed to be just low-level D-rank soldiers. A sudden, deafening noise pulled everyone's attention to the same spot. Their eyes landed on a beast with a fresh wound on its leg. The creature locked eyes with the young man, our protagonist, standing wounded but unshaken. Despite being exhausted and bleeding, he stood tall, bracing for the final confrontation. One of the traders stepped forward cautiously. G demanded to know who dared injure his beast. Then his eyes widened. It was him, Yen. The young man called out to Brother Chun, completely lost on what was happening. Yichen's friend asked if he had brought reinforcements, as their group began to scatter in panic. Back in the present, the baby renews his vow for vengeance, his eyes fixated on the traitor. He reaches his arms out, babbling and making baby noises at the man who stares at him curiously. The man stutters, unable to make sense of what the child wants. The baby's father chuckles, saying his son wants to be held, and that being chosen by the boy is the greatest honor of his life. He picks the baby up, thanking him for the blessing, while the child fakes a loud wail. But the moment he's in his arms, the little one releases a jolt of yellow energy, his lightning-type divine sense flaring. The traitor screams as the electric shock tears through his body. Jolted by pain, he accidentally drops the baby onto the marble floor of the mansion. Gasps fill the room. Guests turn, shocked by the loud crash. The musicians stop playing mid-performance. All eyes lock onto the fallen child. The grandfather watches with a grim, unreadable expression. The parents freeze in horror. Their precious baby lies on the floor. The old man realizes the gravity of what just happened. The baby starts wailing uncontrollably, still faking it to sell the act. The traitor begins to sweat bullets, clearly panicking. He's terrified of the consequences. Furious, the grandfather roars, demanding to know how anyone could dare drop the Liu family's treasure. The traitor throws himself to the ground, swearing it wasn't his fault that the baby acted on his own. The father doesn't buy it. Without hesitation, he kicks the man hard, calling him a worthless dog. The blow sends him flying across the floor. The man grovels on the ground, begging for forgiveness. He offers up his most prized treasures, pleading to help treat the boy's injuries. The father, clearly enjoying the show, smirks coldly. Then he orders the servants to drag the traitor out and give him a proper beating. The man, beaten and humiliated, still thanks him for the punishment. The maid picks the baby back up, and in her arms, the child smirks wickedly, pleased with the outcome. With a bruised forehead, the traitor stares in confusion, still trying to make sense of what just happened. The baby resumes crying, flawlessly keeping up his innocent facade. The trader is stunned that the child is crying again. The grandfather commands a maid to take the young master inside and check him thoroughly for injuries. Turning to his son, the old man scolds him harshly. With their family status, there's no room for worthless men like that. He storms off in a fury, leaving behind a stunned silence. The father clenches his fist around a wine glass, cracking it under the pressure. Then, fueled by rage, he delivers another kick to the trader's face. And without a second thought, he orders the man to be dragged outside and thrown to the dogs. Guards seize him as he begs for mercy, but no one listens. The host turns to the guests and coolly tells them to enjoy the party. Meanwhile, the baby thinks only of how to absorb more power. The family doctor examines him and marvels at his incredible physique. He's perfectly fine. The grandfather laughs heartily, celebrating his grandson's resilience and health. But the baby has something far more important on his mind, finding the 3 sisters he lost. He needs to grow up fast, and he needs to obtain that woman's essence. Crying for milk and a doctor, he draws the attention he needs. The elder quickly orders his daughter-in-law to feed him again and take another dose of spiritual medicine. The mother complains, exhausted, saying she just fed him. But the family head insists. For the sake of the clan and their son's future, she must endure. Reluctantly, she removes her coat and prepares to breastfeed again. The baby cries, mouth open, waiting to be fed. His mother picks him up, red-eyed and tired, and starts nursing him, grumbling about how rough he is. Seeing her weakening, the grandfather orders tonic soup to restore her strength. Later, they're seen in a hot spring together. She groans, joking that he must be collecting a debt from a past life with how long he's been feeding. 3 months pass. The baby is now crawling all over the mansion, and his power has already hit sea level. In his past life, it had taken him a full year to advance from elementary to intermediate D level. And now, he's already pushed past intermediate C level just by drinking milk. At a family dinner, he suddenly crawls toward the main table. Furious, the grandfather scolds the staff for letting him roam unsupervised. The maid apologizes, saying he crawls too fast for her to keep up. The father chuckles, teasing that the baby must want more milk. The mother, on the verge of collapse, groans that the boy's been glued to her chest for 3 months. But the child knows he can't afford to slow down. He must keep getting stronger. Then, shocking everyone, he suddenly stands up on his own. The grandfather and butler freeze in disbelief. The boy begins walking, step by step, toward his stunned mother. Then he jumps at her, making her scream that she just wants to finish her meal. The maid gasps, pointing out that the young master is walking. The butler whispers that this is no ordinary child. He has a celestial constitution. The grandfather beams with pride, watching his prodigy. With that, he declares it's time. According to clan rules, the boy must now choose a personal servant. In a shadowy part of the estate, the elder checks the results. A guard reports only 2 candidates remain. In his mother's arms, the baby is brought to a makeshift arena for the selection. He watches intently until his eyes suddenly widen. He recognizes one of the girls. In a holding cell stands a frightened, white-haired girl in a defensive stance. On the other side, a blonde girl charges forward, screaming as she launches an attack. The baby is stunned. What is she doing here? His tiny body begins to glow with powerful light. Then he unleashes his lightning-type power, zapping one of the fighting girls. The shock is so strong that the blonde girl is hurled across the room, hitting the ground hard and losing consciousness instantly. Seizing the opportunity, the white-haired girl dives for the bread. Without hesitation, she grabs it and starts devouring it hungrily right in the middle of the cell. Nearby, the mother's hair stands on end from the static. The protagonist panics, silently hoping no one noticed anything suspicious. The grandfather lets out a hearty laugh, remarking that his grandson has far more fighting spirit than his father ever did. The boy thinks to himself that being a baby has its perks. Adults always find excuses for his actions. The elder then declares that the little girl will serve as a servant. He orders her to be washed and trained in etiquette. Unbothered, the girl continues eating like nothing else matters. In the crib, the baby smiles brightly, clearly pleased with his new servant. Meanwhile, the butler steps forward, explaining that the girl is a death servant, and her duty is to protect the young master. The white-haired girl simply nods, accepting her new role. She is also instructed to follow the young master and train in martial arts while he sleeps. That night, the new maid enters the baby's room to begin her duties. The boy greets her with an excited smile, pointing to himself. But the girl's expression darkens, filled with hatred and vengeance, as she suddenly pulls out a knife. The baby freezes, panicking. He tries to speak, but his underdeveloped vocal cords prevent him. She declares that she will take him out to avenge her older brother's death. Without warning, she raises the knife and lunges at the helpless baby. But in a split second, he dodges with remarkable agility, leaping from the crib and leaving behind a glowing energy silhouette. The girl is stunned. The baby reappears beside her, shocking her further. Suddenly, she emits a green aura, preparing to attack. The protagonist is stunned. She has a wind-type divine sense. She attacks using her wind power, but he counters with his lightning. Their powers collide, filling the room with brilliant light and swirling energy. He realizes that using both his powers is taking a toll on his infant body. Then, an idea strikes. The boy points at her and releases a low-powered thunder divine sense. A tiny lightning spear hits the girl, temporarily paralyzing her and sending her collapsing to the floor. Exhausted, but relieved, he carefully approaches her and pricks his own finger on her knife, letting a drop of blood fall. Using his blood, he writes a message on the floor to explain everything. It's a clever solution, he thinks. But as she reads, she only stares blankly. She can't read. The girl attacks again, and the boy dodges, worried that if someone sees her attacking him, she'll be punished or worse. Elsewhere, the traitor walks through the mansion, holding a wooden box. In a flashback, the boy's father reminds him he's alive only because he's still useful. The man had sold all he owned to buy a rare item for the baby, hoping to gain favor. Now, hearing sound from the baby's room, he rushes to check. He opens the door and is stunned to see the baby and the girl chasing each other. Confused and panicked, he steps forward. Sensing an opportunity, the baby glares darkly and enacts his plan. He grabs the girl's hand, twists the knife, and gives her a light shock to the forehead, knocking her out. As she collapses, he catches the knife midair. Then, without hesitation, the baby stabs himself in the shoulder. Blood spills as he lets out a soft whimper. The traitor is horrified. Before he can react, the baby throws the bloody knife toward him. In reflex, the man catches it and freezes. The box slips from his hands and crashes to the floor. The baby inhales deeply, then begins to wail, loudly, dramatically. He lies on the unconscious girl, crying with all his might. The traitor, holding the bloodied knife, looks completely panicked. Moments later, the grandfather and other family members rush in. They're met with the shocking scene. The baby crying atop the fainted girl, and the man standing there with the knife. The elder glares. The grandfather explodes with fury, accusing the man of trying to harm his grandson. Terrified, the man drops the knife and tries to explain. The father doesn't listen. He punches the man square in the face. The traitor pleads desperately, saying it was the girl who attacked the baby, and he tried to help. But no one believes him. The boy's father demands the location of the gift. Frantically, the man searches the floor. Meanwhile, the grandfather praises the girl for protecting his grandson and orders her taken to rest. The elder places a heavy hand on the baby's shoulder, his red eyes blazing with rage. He scolds his son for nearly losing the Liu family's only hope. Then, everyone exits, leaving the man on the floor, trembling. Suddenly, the baby's father turns back and delivers a harsh kick to the man. "I gave you a chance, and you still try to hurt him," he growls. He orders the man dragged out and fed to the dogs. The baby, seeing his plan succeed, exhales in relief. But he looks to the girl with concern. Just then, the butler rushes over, insisting the servant be treated immediately. The boy panics. His blood-written message is still on the floor beneath her. Thinking quickly, he flops down over her body and shakes his head, trying to stop the butler. The man lifts the baby away and places him back in the crib as the boy looks on distressed. Seeing the butler about to lift the girl, the baby debates using his power to stop him. But then an idea sparks. He watches intently. As the maid is lifted, a pool of blood is revealed beneath her. Shocked, the boy realizes she's actually injured. Even the butler is stunned to see the blood on her clothes. Confused, the baby can't understand how she got hurt. The butler carries her away and orders the baby's room to be cleaned. Alone again in the crib, the baby sighs. Though relieved, he still wonders what really happened. No time to dwell, there are bigger plans to set in motion. In another room, a fragrant oil is being prepared. The baby's mother lies down for a rare back massage. She's finally relaxing, until her peace is shattered by the baby's loud call for milk. Startled, she sighs as he crawls up to her. "You again? That appetite of yours is unreal." As he starts feeding, she groans. "How much longer are you going to keep this up?" But the boy knows he needs to grow faster. He needs to speak. He has a lot to explain to his servant. A week passes in the luxurious Liu family mansion, and time seems to fly. Now, looking like a 3-year-old, He has finally learned how to talk. The little white-haired servant girl still watches him with suspicion, convinced he is responsible for everything that happened to her older brother. He turns to E and quietly reveals that he is her brother. She freezes, completely shocked, her eyes slowly turning red. He asks if the cake her brother bought for her tasted good, sending her straight into her memories. She remembers her brother calling her and her sisters to eat cake, the three of them getting excited at the sight of the birthday cake. She recalls him slicing pieces for them and then answering a call ordering him to join his team for a mission. When one of the sisters tries to grab a piece early, another stops her, reminding her to wait for their brother. Afterward, the three girls sit together at the window, watching the moon and waiting for his return. In her memory, his old face appears reflected in the full moon, blending with his current baby face. He looks at her gently, his eyes filling with tears. Realizing that the child in front of her is truly him, she breaks down crying. She collapses onto the floor, unable to hold back her emotions. He quickly covers her mouth to keep her sobs from alerting anyone, trying his best with his tiny hands to muffle her crying. She then throws her arms around him, hugging him tightly with a mix of relief and happiness. Still overwhelmed, she asks if the one before her is really her beloved brother. His little body is squeezed so hard that he struggles to breathe, and once she lets go, he sits there dizzy, trying to catch his breath. When he recovers, he becomes serious and looks at his sister, needing answers. She stares back, tears still running down her cheeks. He grabs her and asks how she ended up here and where their other sisters are. Overwhelmed by all the questions, she begs him to slow down. Once they both calm down, she begins explaining. She tells him that on the day he left for the mission, he simply never came back. In her memory, the three hungry sisters stare at the cake he bought, wondering why he's taking so long. The youngest even asks if he abandoned them since he had never been gone for that long before. Determined, he goes out to search for him and ends up at the mission headquarters, where she witnesses a hunter's wife shouting at a trader about her missing husband. The man dismisses her as crazy and shoves her away harshly. Another hunter arrives and accuses the same man of going into the portal with young Master Lu and the others. He realizes in that moment that this man is responsible. The trader stands there annoyed, smoking his cigarette before unleashing his fire ability. He launches a fireball at the accuser, who freezes in fear and takes the attack directly. The flames engulf him completely, and he collapses to the ground while everyone else watches without stepping in. The trader warns them not to spread rumors about the young master, saying it was a high-risk mission anyway. He listens to her story and says the trader deserved what happened for double-crossing them, then asks what happened to their other sisters. The moment he mentions them, Yi's expression changes and she grows terrified. She begins crying again, confusing him. Worried, he asks what happened. Through her tears, she explains that she only wanted to avenge her brother, but suddenly a massive demon tide appeared out of nowhere. She remembers the portal ripping open and people running in panic as the invasion began. The memory leaves her shaking. She recalls running through the broken streets, screaming her sisters' names while hunters casually comment nearby about how intense the monster wave was. She stands alone as the city burns around her. With tears falling, she continues searching through the wreckage, calling out desperately. Her hands become scraped and bloodied as she digs through rubble, until she collapses in complete despair, shouting her sisters' names with all the strength she has left. That moment triggers her memories of her brother, and she breaks down again, sobbing and wondering where he could possibly be. Back in the present, our main character comforts his sister, telling her not to cry because they've been given a second chance. His eyes flash red as he vows that Sean will be the first to pay for everything. Somewhere far away, in a dark and sticky prison hallway stained from past horrors, the traitor is locked inside a cell, screaming that he's innocent and claiming he only went there to deliver a gift. Suddenly, he's slammed against the bars with terror written all over his face as a demon materializes behind him. He falls to his knees, begging for mercy while the creature closes in, its long tongue sliding out. A final horrified scream echoes through the corridor, and more stains appear on the prison floor. With the traitor gone, the main character declares it's time to flip the entire Liu family upside down. His sister, still wiping tears from her eyes, agrees and promises to do whatever he asks. Then she suddenly remembers her daily task with him. Without hesitation, she lifts him into the air and announces that it's bath time. He protests loudly, insisting he's her brother, but she explains that as his personal attendant, this is her mission every day. She marches him toward the bathroom while he screams that he absolutely refuses. Inside the bathroom, he sits in a wash basin while she prepares everything. She approaches and says it's time to take off his clothes, but he insists he can undress himself. She ignores him completely, grinning as she tosses his clothes into the air. When she looks down and playfully comments on how cute he is, the main character is mortified, dying from embarrassment and yelling at her not to look. She then announces that since she's older now, it's her turn to give him a bath. Shocked, he asks what she's doing as she begins to take off her own clothes. He covers his eyes in panic as she steps into the tub wrapped in a towel, leaving him stunned. While washing him, she vents about how people outside are suffering while the rich waste everything. Filled with anger, he says justice must be taken with your own hands, and his expression sharpens with resolve. Moments later, she offers to scrub him better, sending him into another panic. They argue, him refusing and her insisting she was instructed to do it. After the bath, he's lying on the floor while she puts his clothes away. He's thinking about how humiliating it is to be the older brother and still be treated like a little kid. She notices something is wrong, but he turns his face away, pouting in silence. She grows sad, saying he's never been this mean to her before. Wanting to avoid more awkwardness, he stands and says he isn't mad anymore and has something important to ask. Her mood brightens, and she tells him to ask anything. He asks if she awakened wind element abilities, and she confirms it. He's shocked because the earliest recorded awakening is at 12 years old. He wonders how she managed it at such a young age with no guidance. She admits she doesn't know either, explaining that a panel simply appeared, showing her stats and guiding her to awaken. Hearing her use the word panel leaves him stunned. He instantly recalls his own system that displays his thunder abilities and glances at the interface, wondering if her panel works the same way. He questions how she awakened so young and how she even has a panel at all. When she notices he's zoned out and asks what's wrong, he brushes it off, telling her that now that she's awakened, she needs to train hard. She nods with determination, saying she'll train super hard from now on. He pats her head and tells her she was always the most responsible among the sisters. Suddenly, they both freeze when someone knocks on their bedroom door. A maid announces that dinner is ready and that the master ordered their mother to prepare milk for him. She hands a full baby bottle to his sister, who stares at it in surprise. She takes the bottle, and the main character walks toward her, already forming a new plan in his mind. He says they need to use every resource the Liu family has to get stronger as fast as possible. His sister asks how they're supposed to do that when she's already training as hard as she can level up. With a mischievous grin, he tells her to open her mouth so he can show her the secret to gaining power. Hesitant but curious, she opens her mouth, and he immediately pops the bottle in and tells her to drink. She follows his instruction, sipping the milk while he watches closely. Within moments, a purple aura begins swirling around her, and she's shocked by the sudden rush of strength. Confused, she asks why so much power is entering her body so easily. He explains that their mother's unique constitution transforms crystals into pure energy, the kind that even elite squads struggle to obtain during missions. But their mother can produce this essence endlessly, making her a constant source of power. Stunned, the girl comments that nothing like this has ever been mentioned at the academy. The main character suspects the noble families are hiding truths and manipulating everyone into fighting for them. With determination, he says they need to uncover every secret these families are keeping. His sister offers him the bottle so he can get stronger too, but he refuses and tells her to finish it and hit her limit first. Then he walks off with a focused look, stating that he's going to eat as well. She continues drinking while he heads straight for their mother's room. The maids are confused to see him return again, but the next moment, he's already feeding directly from his mother in the family pool. The woman complains that she's already given so much milk, and the boy just keeps eating nonstop. One maid quickly orders the others to prepare more medicinal dishes for the madam. The main character thinks to himself that revenge starts now and that he and his sister are about to overturn the very order of the heavens. Lightning cracks above the mansion as he vows to flip the Liu family completely. Later, he crawls across the bedroom floor with determination, searching for something. A flashback shows the traitor frantically shouting that the gift was in his hand as he desperately looked for it. The boy peeks under a piece of furniture and finds the small box the traitor dropped. With a satisfied smirk, he retrieves the gift, certain it must be something the family considers priceless. When he opens it, a bright blue light illuminates his face. Inside is a large blue crystal, and he wonders if it's a magic beast crystal. A system panel immediately appears, revealing that it's a rare Thunder Element skill crystal. He's confused because he didn't know skills could be absorbed instead of trained. The system explains that evolved beasts sometimes drop rare items like this. The boy is shocked such things even exist, but his suspicion rises as he asks the voice how it knows his thoughts. Suddenly panic hits him as he realizes what's happening. The voice says it resides within his consciousness, but he scoffs, saying he's seen this kind of trope in novels. He remembers how in his past life, he was a student addicted to games and web novels full of systems where main characters got rewards and took revenge. Furious, he calls the system useless, but it fires back, saying he wouldn't have reincarnated without it. He pauses, thinks, and reluctantly admits it has a point. Crossing his arms, he then asks if it's connected to his sister's panel. The voice denies any connection and tells him to get stronger quickly. He agrees and focuses, ready to use any opportunity he can. He sits down and begins absorbing the crystal's energy with complete concentration. A powerful divine force flows through his small body, and moments later, he stretches out his hand and successfully summons his new skill, Lightning Spear. He's completely shocked after gaining a skill that should have taken 10 years to master. Feeling the condensed power inside the spear, he wonders how strong it truly is. Without hesitating, he throws the weapon with full force to test his new ability. He watches the electric attack fly forward, and the loud explosion immediately catches the attention of his grandfather, who rushes over with the butler to check what happened. Instead of destruction, they find the boy's father standing there in his SpongeBob underwear, annoyed and complaining to the boy's mother about the noise. The grandfather and the little sister are stunned by the bizarre scene. The main character looks at the large hole he blasted in the mansion wall. Furious, the grandfather demands to know who caused it, and the butler explains that he heard a lightning strike from the room. But as soon as the old man sees his grandson, his anger disappears. He lifts the boy happily, celebrating the new divine skill he awakened. He even praises the boy's mother, thanking her for being so productive for the family. Meanwhile, the father looks irritated and keeps complaining about all the noise. The grandfather scolds him, saying he should be proud of his son's extraordinary talent. He then decides to take his grandson to the family's annual hunting festival. A moment later, he asks the butler if everything has been prepared for the event. Laughing, he says the younger generation needs to learn their true worth early on. Cradled in his mother's arms, the boy is annoyed because he has no idea what they're planning. The family walks down a long hallway until they reach the festival area. The grandfather uses his energy to open a massive circular gate. The gate activates, revealing a swirling vortex of bright purple energy. Standing before the dimensional portal, the family head gets ready to go inside. The boy is stunned, realizing the Liu family can create dimensional portals themselves. Thinking about how many secrets the powerful hide from the weak, he becomes angry again. The group steps through the portal and arrives in a dense, silent forest on the other side. While the grandfather praises him, the mother complains that the boy never stops eating. Suddenly, the father points at the sky and warns that something is coming. Everyone looks up and sees a smoke trail rushing toward them. The object speeds through the trees, revealing itself as a giant multi-headed serpent that immediately attacks a group of hunters. One hunter tries to strike the creature, but his weapon shatters. Another raises a force field to defend himself. Seeing a C-rank python and a B-rank python king inside a C-rank portal shocks both the main character and his sister, and the girl recognizes one of the hunters. One of the serpents suddenly lunges at a female hunter, but the red-haired girl manages to grab its mouth and hold it open with her bare hands. She struggles desperately, but the serpent's strength overwhelms her, and it knocks her away with a powerful strike. The hunter's leader orders everyone to fight while retreating. He tries to block the serpent with his shield, but another hunter suddenly attacks him from behind. The red-haired girl runs forward, shouting for him to watch out, but the punch pierces straight through the shield and hits the captain hard. The impact causes the hunter fighting the serpent to lose his shield. In that moment, a purple lightning bolt hits the giant serpent from another hunter. Someone yells furiously at the traitor for attacking their captain. The traitor only smiles wickedly and prepares to strike again. With a brutal blow, he attacks another hunter and leaves him gravely wounded. Another member of the group recognizes him and reveals that the attacker is Kwong, a criminal who had already been convicted before. Kwong starts laughing wildly at their shock. He then kicks the injured hunter, launching him into the air. The man lands right in the open mouth of the giant serpent waiting below. The main character watches the horrifying scene with a grim expression. He remembers his past life when Koei shone through a friend to his doom, and the splash of blood mirrors what is happening now. Back then, he watched his friends fall one by one as the monster they were feeding with their own comrades emerged, towering and terrifying. With a cruel smile, the MC's father ordered them to feed the creature to form a treasure, then told Quishong to attack his past self without hesitation. The henchman rushed in, ready to strike, but the young man activated his power and braced for impact. His fist glowed with energy as he closed the distance, and their punches collided in a violent clash. He explains that Kyong is like a demon who enjoys crushing people, protected by the Liu family, and now serving them as a loyal thug. Back in the present, his sister wonders how they can possibly save the red-haired girl, but the protagonist already has an idea, his eyes gleaming as the plan forms. He turns and starts feeding again, which immediately irritates his mom. As he fills his mouth with milk and makes a strange face, she watches in disbelief before he spits everything out, surprising her completely. Disgusted, she yells at him for making a mess and tosses him into the air. Seeing the chaos, the grandfather grows furious at the situation, while the MC's little sister reacts instantly. She leaps forward and catches him midair, landing safely with her brother in her arms. When she asks if he's all right, he explains his plan to create chaos so they can save the hunter. Their father suddenly slaps his wife across the face, stunning her. He grabs her firmly and scolds her for being careless with their son. She angrily protests, saying even her parents never dared to touch her, and her rage spikes as she summons an ice weapon and charges at him. He defends himself with his powers, insisting she needs discipline. The kids watch closely as their parents clash, but a burst of energy erupts between them. The grandfather appears, and both parents stop immediately. He tells the mother she must prioritize her son and reminds them both of their responsibilities to the family. They calm down, dismiss their weapons, and the children observe from a distance. The MC's sister asks what to do next, and he tells her not to worry because they're coming. A moment later, the young maid hears a strange noise. The butler informs the grandfather he sensed movement in the nearby woods. The family notices something approaching and becomes alert. 3 goblins emerge with odd expressions, closing in on them. The creatures scream as if preparing for a fight, but before they can act, they're impaled by wooden stakes. The MC's father questions how this could happen since the area was supposed to be clear. The grandfather complains that this is what happens when people waste time causing trouble instead of studying. Then the boy's mother begins glowing with purple energy, and the little sister explains that her essence attracts demonic beasts, especially high-level ones. Soon, the sound of goblin footsteps grows louder as an elite group appears, led by a B rank. One monster leaps toward the family with an axe, but the grandfather calmly orders his subordinates to handle it. The family immediately starts fighting, using their elemental powers to keep the monsters at bay. Taking advantage of the chaos, the MC tells his sister it's time to go. She runs toward a cliff with her brother in her arms and jumps without hesitation, falling at high speed. Her eyes shine as she activates her special ability, and she uses her wind power to lift into the sky, carrying her little brothers safely away. Our MC asks when she learned to fly, and she explains it was a reward from the system. Surprised, he gets flustered and asks what kind of task it was. The girl smiles and reveals that the system only asked her to give her brother a bath. In a flashback, we see that after completing the mission, she received the rare flight technique as a reward. Our MC gets irritated, wondering why such an impressive skill came from such a simple task. Meanwhile, the little redhead sister is fighting a serpent, striking it with her sharp sword. Then another massive serpent appears and attacks the other hunters, breaking their shields effortlessly. With one hit, the monsters send a hunter flying and destroys her guard. On the ground, the woman shouts to her captain that they can't keep going. The captain confronts Kuei-shang, asking why he's doing this. With a wicked smile, the traitor says he enjoys hearing the screams of his victims. The captain asks who his master is and reminds him that breaking the guild's agreement is illegal. The villain replies that laws are only for the weak and for commoners like them, and he doesn't care at all. The traitor suddenly rushes forward and instead targets one of the female hunters, catching her completely off guard. Defeated, she begs her captain to save her from the heartless man. Without mercy, the traitor throws her straight into the giant serpent's mouth. The creature devours her instantly, shocking everyone. The captain yells that the mission has failed and tells the others to run. The redhead sister freezes in fear after watching the horrifying scene. Rage takes over the captain and he charges at the traitor, determined to finish him. He unleashes a strong strike, but the villain dodges effortlessly. In a moment, the traitor counterattacks and lands a direct hit. Seeing her captain injured, the young woman calls the man a monster and prepares herself. She throws an object to stall him, but the rock doesn't affect the villain at all, only tearing part of his shirt. He says it's unfortunate they encountered him because none of them will survive. He leaps at the girl with his sharp claws ready. Terrified, she stands surrounded by broken sword shards. At the last moment, the captain throws himself in front of her, taking the fatal blow. He collapses, and the traitor casually tosses his body aside. The giant serpent devours the captain as purple lightning surges along its scales. The girl screams in horror at the sight. The villain looks at her and says it's unfortunate because he wanted to add her to his collection, planning to turn her into a specimen to display like a trophy. He places his blood-stained hand on her face as she cries in despair, calling out for her siblings in her final moments. Suddenly, a massive lightning sword appears, and a voice declares they've arrived to save her. The traitor turns and manages to block the strike with his arm. The impact releases yellow energy, but he swats it away. The girl looks up in shock and calls out her sister's name, Our MC and his sister land, ready for the battle. Recognizing his past appearance, the girl calls him brother, and he tells her he'll explain later because they have more urgent problems. The red-haired girl can only stare in confusion. Facing the serpent, our MC realizes the beast has evolved from devouring awakeners, something never recorded before. At the same time, the villain seems to be breaking free from something as intense yellow energy swirls around him. With one final push, he releases his full power, shattering whatever was restraining him. He glares at them and mocks them, calling our MC the young master and referring to the servant girl beside him. The siblings prepare to face him together. The redhead, still confused, asks how they know about her and why they brought the younger girl. The villain ignores her and focuses on formulating his next move. Our MC realizes the enemy is far more intelligent than he expected. The villain reveals his plan, turn the servant girl into a puppet and deliver the MC to his boss. Scenes show the aftermath of his earlier attacks, with defeated hunters and red energy weapons hovering above them, revealing his metal-type power that lets him merge weapons with his body. Our protagonist evaluates their strength difference and realizes the gap is huge. But an idea sparks in his mind, and his eyes brighten. He turns to his sisters and tells them to follow his plan carefully. On the other side, the villain prepares himself as strange energy radiates from him. He launches a lightning-fast attack with his claws aimed at our MC. The sisters jump back, while our MC prepares to counter. He activates his divine lightning-type awakening, releasing intense yellow power. He uses his speed to dodge the villain's attacks, surprising the enemy. The villain recognizes the technique as a forbidden move and remembers defeating someone in the past who used the same technique. In a flash of memory, he recalls fighting our MC's past self. Realizing the truth, he laughs at the absurd coincidence. However, the MC's small body can't handle the power for long and begins to weaken. Knowing he only gets one chance, he calls his sisters' names to trigger the final phase of his plan. The villain hears a noise and quickly turns toward the sound. In that moment, the red-haired sister appears holding a giant boulder, ready to crush the enemy. Without hesitation, she hurls the massive rock at him. The villain dodges easily, and the boulder shatters against the ground. He then notices a strange sound and a trail of green energy skimming across the earth. Instantly alert, he watches it approach, prepared for anything. A roaring storm of wind and dust forms in front of him, created by the other sister using her wind ability. Even inside the swirling tornado, the adversary stays completely unfazed, dismissing it as nothing more than cheap tricks. Taking advantage of the distraction, our protagonist focuses his remaining strength and forms a full-power lightning spear. Using a divine martial arts technique, he throws it with everything his body has left. The villain turns in surprise, irritated by the MC's tactics, and braces himself. The lightning spear hits him square in the head, severely injuring him, and continues traveling upward into the sky. The impact creates a massive explosion, tearing through the forest. Exhausted, our MC collapses, and his sister immediately scolds him for using something so reckless. Both girls hover over him, worried about how hard he pushed himself. Injured but still smirking, the villain says it doesn't matter because he plans to protect the young master from the two little girls. With a creepy grin, he reveals a sharp blade and prepares to go all out. Without wasting a second, he charges toward them at high speed. The servant girl shouts a warning and jumps in front of the redhead to shield her. The villain strikes her with brutal force, sending her crashing into a tree. He then looks at the remaining girl and tells her she's next. He morphs his hands into blades, pins her down, and tells her to stay put as bait for his plans. A yellow bolt of lightning suddenly shoots in, deflecting the attack at the last possible second. The villain immediately targets the protagonist, ready to stab him with a small dagger. Gripping the weapon tightly, he brings it down and drives it into MC's back, injuring him severely. The villain sends him flying, and the red-haired sister screams in despair. She manages to break free, grabs her injured brother, and runs. The villain clenches his fist, demanding to know why the boy is rushing toward death. But the protagonist, held in his sister's arms, replies that the enemy is the one who's actually about to fall. With blood dripping from his eye, the villain becomes furious at the boy's confidence. Suddenly, a figure appears in the sky, shouting at him and calling him an ungrateful mutt for attacking his master. It's the MC's grandfather, glaring down with pure anger. The villain realizes the earlier flashy attack was meant to signal the family. Our protagonist smiles, confirming the plan. Flashing back briefly, the family arrives at the scene where the butler announces the young master is missing. The father complains that the kid can already walk, and the butler adds that the servant girl is missing too. Furious, the family head orders everyone to find him immediately. Then they spot the trail of light left from the MC's earlier attack and know exactly where to go. The grandfather uses his lightning powers to fly at top speed toward the signal. When he arrives, he instantly understands the situation, and the villain begins to panic. Realizing his only chance is to grab the protagonist as a hostage, he rushes straight at the siblings. The red-haired sister pulls out a staff and prepares to protect her brother. She strikes the enemy with a powerful blow, catching him completely off guard. Stunned, the villain glares at her in rage. Suddenly, the protagonist's father arrives, furious, and calls the villain useless for failing. He attacks, and the villain tries to flee, insisting none of it was his fault. But he ends up trapped in front of one of the area's giant beasts with no escape route left. The creature attacks him immediately, leaving him with zero chance to survive. After that, the serpent begins to evolve, its body stretching and shifting until it becomes a massive golden creature. The butler rushes to the children and assures them that the MC is all right despite the wound. The grandfather praises the girls and says the serpent is now ready for them to harvest its rare treasure. That's when realization strikes him. The noble families are using civilians to feed and evolve these beasts. With this in mind, the grandfather and his son prepare to face the newly emerged golden creature. Their clash erupts into a gigantic explosion of red energy tearing through the forest. As the smoke clears, two figures step out while the kids watch from a safer distance. The MC pieces everything together once again, confirming that the noble families are leveling up beasts by sacrificing civilians. Grandpa and Dad get ready to fight the powerful creature, and he mentions that the harvest turned out far better than expected. Grandpa orders the butler to take the two girls to gather the remaining materials for the warehouse. In his mind, the old man is already planning to mix cheap items with scrap to sell to regular hunters, while overcharging the frontline squads for the high-quality ones. He hands the poisoned sack to his son, suggesting it will help him create important new connections. The MC's father watches all this with a sly grin. Grandpa then gives him the silver snake's horn to send to the auction house, and decides the scales will be crafted into protective treasures for his grandson. The MC listens with a confused expression, unable to understand their mindset. The butler bows deeply, agreeing to follow every order. The MC's father then asks for the Snake King's essence. Grandpa complains but still holds on to it, saying his excellent wife will make better use of it and insisting her son should share. At that moment, the MC's mother steps forward while the sisters watch silently from behind. The father freezes, shocked, then his expression hardens with anger. The MC, still held by his sister, looks back at him with a serious stare. Grandpa tosses the snake essence to the butler, who catches it easily. He's amazed by the power radiating from the sphere. The head of the family says his eldest son is evolving and that this essence will be important. Kneeling down, the butler thanks him and pledges loyalty. Days pass, and under the starry sky above the luxurious Luklon mansion, the MC holds a pendant in his room as his sister tells him that Shuang is now officially his maid. Both sisters enter wearing maid uniforms and smile. He looks at the pendant as a system prompt informs him that it's a rank a defensive item. Seeing his expression, one of the girls asks what's wrong. Suddenly, the MC's eyes glow, and he unleashes lightning into the pendant to try supercharging it. A burst of yellow energy explodes out the window. The sisters stare in shock, but despite the surge, the pendant remains unharmed. The MC realizes this confirms beasts evolved by devouring awakened ones. He understands that noble families use ordinary people as bait, gaining powerful resources that the weak never access, while the Academy spreads the lie that nobles risk themselves to protect civilians. Anger burns in him as he reflects on this hypocrisy. The sisters ask if information truly matters that much. He explains that he's finally realizing how dangerous it is to lack it. From now on, they must use the Lu family to gather intel. The two girls agree wholeheartedly. After a moment, the MC asks Shuang why she was with the Divine Team. She hesitates, and the other sister admits she also wants to know why her own power is so strong. The red-haired sister is stunned while the other waits for an answer. The MC then asks about Sanson, and Shuang tenses immediately. Hearing that name, she goes into shock. Tears fill her eyes as she tries to explain what happened. She breaks down crying, collapsing to the floor. The MC quickly covers her mouth, warning that she can't cry loudly. Once she calms down, she sits on the bed, still shaken. She explains that day he went to look for their brother and never returned. In a flashback, a younger Shuang stares hungrily at a piece of cake, reaching toward the cherry, waiting for her siblings to come home. Deciding to find them herself, she wanders through the dark house, calling Sanson's name. Scared, she runs down the hallway, begging her sister to stop hiding. Back in the present, the MC is stunned to hear that Sanson actually ran away. Shuang explains that from the rooftop, she saw the beast tide and discovered it was caused by a bad person. The MC is confused, since beast tides are supposed to be uncontrollable natural disasters. In her memories, Shuang was desperately searching for Sanson across the rooftops of the city. She pushed open doors and begged her little sister to come out quickly. Then she looked to the side, her face filled with fear. On a nearby rooftop, she saw a mysterious man standing under the full moon, holding a staff. His face was hidden by shadows, but his eyes glowed a deep red. He raised his staff, which began to shine with a powerful energy, and slammed it into the ground. A massive red magic circle formed beneath him, lighting up the entire area before launching a beam of red light into the sky. The beam carved open the darkness, creating a red portal. From within it, a giant reptilian eye appeared, leaving Shuang completely terrified. Moments later, the red portal fully materialized in the night sky, and countless red, demonic beasts poured out to attack the city. Shuang remembered being alone, surrounded by monstrous creatures flooding out of the portal. She explained that she was chased by a demon wolf when a panel suddenly appeared. The system notified her that she had awakened a divine body cultivation power. Following its instructions, she performed an incredible leap between two buildings and escaped. Back in the present, she tells them she ran until she found the subjugation team, who took her in. The MC is shocked that yet another system appeared and that so many miracles are happening around them. He says that if all of them have systems, then Sanson might have one too, meaning she could still be alive. The MC agrees and says they will use the Liu family network to search for clues about her. Suddenly, Shuang announces she has received a new system task with a reward. Without warning, she scoops her brother into her arms, stunning him completely. He panics, terrified that the same thing might happen again. The two sisters take off running, excited because the system mission is to give their brother another bath. They dash through the mansion while the MC yells in embarrassment about their ridiculous system. They reach a massive, luxurious bathroom to begin the mission. The redhead lifts the MC into the air, admiring how cute he is, while the other sister happily agrees. Their teasing leaves him absolutely mortified as he screams in frustration. Once he's in the tub, one sister washes his hair while the other watches with a smile. Water splashes everywhere as the two enjoy the moment way too much. After the bath, they hold him and comment on how well-behaved he was, but he complains that they've changed. Suddenly, the red-haired sister freezes with a nervous expression. Seeing her reaction, the MC asks what's wrong. She points ahead with fear, explaining that the beast tide was caused by that person. The MC and the other sister are stunned by the revelation. Elsewhere, the butler walks beside a man with a scar on his face. His expression is stern and intimidating. In Shuang's memory, he appears on the rooftop with the same staff, creating the beast tide, the red magic circle, the torn sky, and the giant reptilian I return vividly in her mind. The MC then declares that he is the son of the future family head and tells them not to panic. The three continue down the hall. As the two men walk ahead, the MC watches them with a serious and suspicious expression. When they pass, the red-haired sister becomes extremely tense, unable to hide her fear. The scarred man notices her reaction, but says nothing. As they get closer, the two sisters greet the butler with stiff smiles. The butler bows respectfully to the MC and addresses him as young master. The MC watches the two men walk away, his expression firm and alert. They arrive at a door where the butler announces that Joe King has returned to see the master of the house. The MC realizes this is the meeting room and decides to eavesdrop. His sister gets worried about being discovered, but he tells her not to worry, clearly already having a plan. With that, they quietly move closer to the door. Instead of listening from outside, the MC suddenly bursts into the room with his sisters. A guard yells that they can't enter, but the kid ignores him. Inside, his grandfather sits at his desk with the two men, all of them looking surprised at the interruption. The sisters bow and quickly apologize, saying they couldn't stop him, but the MC ignores their panic and runs forward with his arms open, calling for his grandpa. The head of the family dismisses everyone else and welcomes his grandson with a smile. With the MC on his lap, the grandfather talks about the family's strength and asks about the new beast tides. The butler and the scarred man listen carefully to the instructions. The scarred man reports that they have located new beast groups that could attack at any moment. Hearing this, the MC feels anger rise inside him, understanding that the academy lied and is sending students straight into danger. A flashback shows a teacher claiming the tides are natural disasters and awakened people are protectors. The butler then says he has arranged for the guild to post high-reward missions to attract teams. The grandfather praises him, noting that his family has served them for 3 generations. The butler gestures subtly to the scarred man, who immediately kneels and declares it an honor to work for the Liu family. The butler thanks him for the gift that helped his son reach peak B rank and expresses gratitude for the master's kindness. The family head calmly orders them to continue with the Beast Tide plan as arranged. The scarred man remains kneeling and accepts the order without hesitation. The grandfather also tells them to prepare expensive equipment and entertainment services for the survivors. A flashback shows a younger version of the grandfather relaxing in a hot spring with several girls while a maid watches from afar. The butler bows and accepts all the commands. Night falls over the enormous, luxurious Liu family mansion. Back inside, the MC explains the truth to his sisters. The family plans to open portals and use people as bait. The awakened fight the beasts, and the Liu family collects the resources. The sister is horrified and asks how they can be so cruel, wondering if the victims aren't considered human. The MC explains that to nobles, they alone are human and everyone else is treated as livestock. The red-haired sister suggests exposing the plan, but the MC stops her, saying nobody would believe them even with the truth. Worried, they ask what they should do. The MC then declares they're going to take down the Liu family's goons and stop the Beast Tide. He calls them closer to explain his plan. Both girls lean in while he whispers everything. They nod, understanding, but still worry whether they can defeat such a strong enemy. The MC says they have 3 weeks to prepare since the plan begins at the end of the month. He raises his baby bottle and says they need to power up, leaving one sister confused. At that moment, the MC and his white-haired sister glance at each other knowingly. Without warning, he pushes the baby bottle into the redhead's mouth. She drinks and is shocked as her strength rises instantly, without training. The MC rushes off, saying he's going to get a bite to eat. While they finish the milk, their mother meditates peacefully until her son suddenly interrupts her. She then complains that his appetite keeps growing, calling him a little brat for never being satisfied. 3 weeks later, the MC starts wondering if he's finally hit his limit while looking at a system screen. The system notifies him about a new skill, and he questions whether he can be turned into a host. He also considers whether he can recover to his current state without going through another 9 months in the womb. He realizes that this new skill can be used as an attack method, and an illustration shows how the technique can directly strike his enemies. Just then, his sisters burst through the door excitedly, announcing that everything is all set. Gathered in the room, the 3 siblings begin discussing their plan to stop the approaching enemies. In another scene, the white-haired sister whispers that she has already dug up everything on the man named Jo-chan. She reveals that he's a divine awakening master and one of the top graduates from his academy class. Another maid warns them to keep their voices down, reminding them how dangerous that man is. Back in the siblings meeting, the red-haired sister joins in, saying she has uncovered important intel as well. She explains that the Lord gave him a high life essence, pushing him to the peak of B rank. Hearing this, the youngest sister realizes he's much stronger than the last enemy they faced. The MC checks his own strength, noting that he has only reached the initial stage of C rank. He mentions that Shuang reached the peak of D rank in 3 weeks, but even with their combined power, they still don't stand chance. The redhead perks up, reassuring them because she unlocked a new skill after giving him bath. Both sisters get excited and ask what kind of power she awakened. With a smug grin, she says the technique has a cool and epic name. She strikes a pose and announces that the skill is called Blue Thirsty Rush. The other sister is impressed while the MC looks a bit embarrassed. Confidently, she explains that the skill makes her 5 times stronger for 30 seconds. She claims that with this new power, 1 punch would be enough to send the enemy flying across the planet. Fired up, she begins shadow boxing as her sister claps. The MC cracks a confident smirk. He already has an idea for their plan, but he still wonders why the system granted them such impressive skills just for bathing him. Even so, he worries that their power may still fall short against the enemy. Noticing his concern, the redhead asks what information he's gathered for their strategy. Dempsey then reveals his intel with a cocky grin, explaining that he discovered the enemy will be active in the city at 1 a.m. We then see how the MC overheard the scarred man telling his grandfather that everything is ready for the 1 a.m. attack. The red-haired sister is shocked by this revelation and panics because that location is exactly where her divine awakening group's base is. She yells that the commander is in danger and rushes out to warn them, but the MC stops her, grabbing her arm and using a little lightning power to hold her back. He tells her not to act hastily because they still have time to save everyone. With a determined look, he says he already has a plan to defeat Joe Chung. Both sisters get excited, asking if he really has one. The MC leans in and starts whispering the details of his plan. He says that they have more than enough time and that tonight they will take down Joe Chung. Both sisters nod, ready for the mission. Night falls over the city as the full moon lights up the scene. The clock strikes midnight, showing that the ambush is close. Wearing black gear and masks, the three siblings get ready to begin the operation. Someone mentions that the enemy has a powerful skill called Divine Whip, a technique that allows him to transform his arms into whips, combining it with his body enhancement. With this ability, he's able to shatter even the toughest metal armor. Our trio of heroes leaps from a rooftop, beginning their nighttime infiltration as they glide through the night with the full moon behind them. Descending toward a building, one of them reports that they've picked up a signal and that their target is inside. The white-haired sister thanks the pomegranate group for saving them time. Looking down, they spot the building where a single light is shining, revealing the enemy's position. Moving along the side of the structure, the trio stealthily approaches and ducks behind a wall to observe their opponent from a distance. On the rooftop, the man stands holding a staff glowing with red energy. One sister gets ready to attack, but the MC stops her, telling her to stay calm and wait. The villain begins concentrating a massive amount of power into his staff as red lightning crackles from it. Seeing the perfect moment, the MC calls for his sisters to attack. The redhead punches the ground, ripping a huge chunk of concrete from the floor and hurling it with all her strength. The man dodges easily, but the rock still grazes his face, leaving him stunned for a moment. Furious about the sneak attack, he shouts in anger and looks at the giant hole the projectile left behind. Taking advantage of the distraction, the other sister darts forward and snatches the staff from his hands. Realizing what happened, the villain whips around in rage and prepares to strike. Using his divine whip ability, his arm transforms and extends toward her at high speed, but she deflects the blow with her leg and uses the staff to vault away. She then throws the weapon as far as she can. As it flies, the villain uses his divine whip again, trying to retrieve it. Suddenly, a yellow bolt of lightning races toward him with overwhelming force. Panicking, he realizes there's no time to escape. The lightning hits him directly, triggering a massive explosion of energy. Seeing the impact, the MC tells his sister they landed a clean hit. But the enemy emerges from the smoke with his arm scorched, screaming in rage. The MC and his sister are shocked that he survived. The villain threatens them, roaring that he'll make them regret being born. Without hesitation, he leaps toward them, ready to fight. The MC slides back and tells his sisters to switch to Plan B. Holding the enemy's weapon, the white-haired sister prepares herself. She spins the staff with force, then tosses it toward her brother. The MC catches it as the redhead and the villain clash, their combat auras exploding against each other. The siblings jump into the fight to rescue the red-headed huntress, who had been in serious trouble with several monsters. She starts matching the villain's strength blow for blow. He's stunned that kids this young are already this strong. Kwong, however, remains completely unfazed. The MC then pulls out the red scepter and prepares a powerful skill. He summons a massive bolt of lightning from the sky, crackling with overwhelming energy. The traitor has no idea what's happening and is confused about the strange technique. Suddenly, a red portal tears open above them, with demonic claws reaching out. The boy sees the danger and shouts for everyone to get out immediately. Kwang shoves the girl aside, knocking her to the ground. Immediately after, the MC throws a baby bottle at the henchman. The man blocks it, but the bottle bursts, drenching him in milk. Kwang is confused, trying to understand why he was just soaked by a bottle. A red beast emerges, and the villain laughs, saying they've helped him finish his mission like fools. But then a yellow light begins glowing in the sky. Intrigued, the traitor looks up just before a golden beam shoots down and strikes the beast that had bitten Kwang, though Kwang easily shakes it off. He casually says that since they helped him complete the mission, he'll take his leave. But then he realizes he's walked into a trap as blue energy arrows start flying toward him. A pack of red wolves charges in next. The traitor scoffs, wondering if they really believe this can stop him. The wolves pounce on him while he dodges the energy arrows. The MC stands watching as the henchman rushes in for a direct attack. The two girls look worried. Kwang dashes forward at high speed to strike the MC with the wolves chasing right behind. The enemy laughs, saying the boy can't fool him with such a weak trick. Kwang has led the entire pack directly toward the MC. The girls scream in despair as their brother is about to be mauled by the animals. But our hero shouts for them not to come any closer and to stay clear of the fight. The villain pauses, intrigued by the boy's voice, trying to remember where he's heard it before. He turns to look at the little guy, confused as the familiar sound clicks in his mind. The traitor is stunned when he finally recognizes the MC's voice. In that instant, the wolves ignore the boy completely and leap straight toward Kwang instead. Kwang screams in panic, demanding to know why the wolves are only chasing him and not the kid. He summons a purple energy shield to defend himself as the wolves attack. He fights back, blocking and resisting, but the number of monsters overwhelms him. The situation spirals until the beasts finally bring him down. The small main character pulls his scepter from the ground. The red lightning in the sky vanishes, and on the ground, only the remains of Kwang are left for the wolves to finish off. The sisters rush over, calling out to the exhausted MC at that moment. The pack of red wolves shifts their attention toward him. The two girls immediately jump in front of their little brother, ready to protect him, telling him to leave the rest to them. The sister in red shouts excitedly when she sees the vice captain arriving to help. From above, a woman with purple hair descends with her team, prepared for combat. Relieved, the MC says the mission is complete and they can finally go home. The next day, at a luxurious mansion, someone is screaming at the top of their lungs. Grandpa is furious, standing while another man kneels before him. The servant cries, begging for forgiveness and admitting they failed their duties. The boss yells that joking ruined everything at a critical moment, making him even angrier. The butler steps in, urging the master to calm down and saying he will investigate and bring answers. With a trembling hand, the older man relaxes slightly, though he's still fuming. He declares that the Liu family will avenge his son's fall and that he will not forgive the traitor. The servant thanks him and swears to uncover whoever is responsible. Just then, a woman opens the door and calls for the butler, still kneeling on the floor. The MC's mother complains that the baby is hungrier than before and that she had plans to go shopping. Grandpa laughs, saying it's normal for him to eat more since he's growing. He adds that the little boy is the hope for both families' futures. He then mentions that several families have already asked to arrange a marriage for the child. The mother is surprised, wondering how her son became so popular so quickly. Grandpa explains that the boy's reputation has already spread and that he must handle matters soon. The MC is shocked internally, wondering what kind of strange marriage scheme this is. The two girls overhear everything and freeze at the news of their brother's engagement. The little guy closes his eyes and nods, confirming it's true. The sisters don't seem happy about it. The white-haired girl asks if he's really going to marry the descendants of those bad guys. Our boy smiles and says he'd never abandon them and that he doesn't want those spoiled brats anyway. The girls finally smile, relieved by his answer. Outside, noble families arrive at the mansion with engagement gifts. The butler organizes everything, giving orders to ensure the event is perfect. The MC's mother complains to Grandpa, saying the butler could have handled everything on his own. The head grandpa replies that his own useless son can't manage these affairs, so she needs to learn how to be the matriarch. At that moment, a maid rushes down the hallway toward the butler. She whispers something in his ear, and he hurries to Grandpa, who is seated. Leaning in, the servant quietly conveys what he learned. Grandpa's expression shifts into a serious, thoughtful look. He stands and invites his daughter-in-law to join the engagement meeting. The woman enters with the MC in her arms. The butler announces that a sealed letter from the second young master has arrived from the imperial capital. With a grave expression, the grandfather receives the letter and then hands it to the MC's mother. Sitting on her lap, the MC thinks to himself that sealed letters are the way noble families deliver important information. He reaches out for the letter while making little baby noises, piecing together that the higher-ups want to make a move on the Ling family, though he honestly doesn't care. He lunges toward his mom, clearly more interested in milk. She scolds him lightly, telling him to eat more slowly as she holds him close. The elder ignores the whole scene and asks his daughter-in-law what she thinks of the letter. She wonders why the higher-ups suddenly care about the Ling family when they're already declining. The family head simply smiles, saying the Ling family made a mistake and their businesses are now ripe for the taking. He orders that the Ling family's marriage proposal party is not to return. We then see the MC handing his bottle to his red-haired sister. Suddenly, the other sister rushes in calling for both of them. Startled, the bottle flies out of her hand and splashes milk all over the redhead. The MC quickly shoves the bottle into the other sister's mouth, asking why she's panicking and telling her to drink some milk to calm down. She drinks with a satisfied expression before returning the bottle, saying she saw Sanson. The MC is shocked and asks where she is. The sister explains that Sanson is at the Ling family's marriage proposal party. In a flashback, the older sister serving at the event sees the Ling family arriving. Their carriage pulls up, and one of the girls prepares to serve. Inside the carriage, young Sanson is dressed as a maid. Hearing the Ling family's name, the MC is stunned. The two sisters notice his reaction and ask what's wrong. Angrily, he says the Liu family is going to crush the Ling family. He shouts for them to get Sanson out of there as fast as possible. He tries to run off, but his mother suddenly appears and blocks him. With a stern look, she asks where he thinks he's going. She picks him up, saying he can't run around because his grandpa ordered him to attend the meeting. She carries him off while the sisters watch and worry. The redhead asks what they should do, and the white-haired sister says they need to come up with a plan first. At that moment, another maid arrives and calls them to help the butler with preparations. They agree, even though they're still tense. Inside the hall, the grandfather thanks the families and announces that only 3 young ladies are compatible with his grandson. The 3 representatives bow, honored by the chance. The elder explains that skill is essential, and whoever wins a special test will marry the boy. Confused, the MC has no idea what this test even is. The 3 chosen families are revealed: Nong, Gong, and the Ling family. The grandfather grumbles that the Ling family sent a concubine's daughter, and with irritation he thinks he only allowed it to distract them. The MC starts worrying, thinking he can only rely on his sisters. He buries his face into his mother's chest, which annoys her. She yells at him, while he just thinks to himself that he's drinking milk to calm down. The grandfather laughs and tells her to let him drink more since his development is unusual. He adds that when the boy grows up and gets tested in the capital, she'll receive all the credit. Exhausted, the mother complains that he's a bottomless troublemaker who only knows how to drink. Elsewhere, the butler enters a room where the family head sits alone. The servant reports that the Ling girl will die in the test, and their entire group will be eliminated. Satisfied, the leader says the plan is excellent. Overhearing the sinister plot, our hero panics, immediately thinking of his sister Sanson. Meanwhile, Minware's sister rushes through the mansion hall with a tray of fruit, and Headed's sister hurries along as well, complaining about being too busy with no chance to slip away. The 2 sisters continue carrying out their duties, exchanging worried looks as they try to figure out what to do next. The scene shifts to the Liu family's private arena, an enormous coliseum-like structure. The grandfather, the mother holding her young man, and the butler sit together in a private viewing box. The butler announces the start of the test and calls for the young lady from the Nangong family. They watch as the first contender steps into the arena, dressed in a gothic outfit. The grandfather praises her appearance and combat skill, while the mother remains unimpressed. The elder comments that not every noble girl becomes a prize like the mother, who agrees and adds that a daughter-in-law must be someone capable of sharing burdens. The butler then calls for the second young lady from the Ye family. A hand shoots up as an eager voice answers, and moments later, a blonde girl in a Lolita dress runs excitedly into the center. She approaches the first competitor with a bright smile and formally introduces herself as Yuan. The protagonist's mother remarks that the girl clearly knows how to win favor. Next, the butler announces the third daughter from the Ling family, Ling Piao. A short-haired girl in simple clothes calmly enters the arena, noticeably different from the others. With all three contenders now present, the atmosphere grows heavier as the grandfather and mother watch seriously. Our hero wonders whether this girl is the one San's son was with and how she ended up here. Inside the arena, the three girls face each other as the test is about to begin. The short-haired girl casually gets the other's attention, prompting the blonde girl to point at her angrily, questioning her behavior. Hanging upside down, our MC is visibly stressed by the entire situation. The short-haired girl holds him by the foot without concern, smiling as she calls him hubby and says she'll be under his care from now on. He panics and demands to be put down. His three sisters suddenly appear, shouting for the girl to release him. All three glare furiously at her, while the youngest cheerfully calls out to her brother. Seeing the chaos, the protagonist wonders how things spiraled so badly. The story flashes back to a few hours earlier, during the skill test in the Liu family arena. The purple-haired girl confronts a demonic boar charging at her. She readies her glowing sword, gripping the hilt before delivering a clean strike that slices the beast in two. She stands in the arena with the beast's remains behind her. The grandfather comments on her impressive skill, especially since she has no divine awakening and relies only on her family sword. Our MC reflects on her strength and how these girls are competing over an arranged marriage. The second round begins as the Ye family representative enters. The blonde girl now faces a more frightening demonic boar. With a wicked grin and glowing eyes, she tells the beast to head to a better place. Her power sends a strange pink energy directly into the creature's mind, confusing it until it runs in circles. Overwhelmed by the mental interference, the boar charges into the arena wall with such force that it knocks itself out instantly. The lifeless beast collapses to the floor. The MC and his sisters watch, stunned by her ability. She waves confidently to the crowd, declaring the challenge cleared. When the protagonist's mother asks the butler about that strange power, he explains that it's the girl's divine awakening, a form of mental interference. This worries the woman, who thinks the girl will manipulate the whole family in the future. The grandfather says it's no issue as long as a divine awakening is at a higher level. Our hero thinks about how his mom's milk increases his power and wonders what secrets these noble families are hiding. Soon after, the Ling family participant is announced and enters the arena. The purple-haired girl watches with a serious expression. The blonde girl taunts the newcomer, saying the Ling family must have scraped the bottom of the barrel. The MC's mom gets angry and calls the blonde competitor a rude little brat. The little guy's sisters grow more anxious when they see who arrived with the Ling family. From above, they nervously watch the scene unfold. Then it's revealed that their youngest sister is disguised as a maid within the Ling group. The protagonist panics, knowing that if the Ling competitor fails, his sister will be dragged down with her. In the arena, the short-haired girl stands before a massive demonic boar. The grandfather explains that to remove a target, it must look like an accident, and he gestures for her to watch carefully. The beast charges at full speed, but the girl remains unmoved. Then, with a smug smile, she wonders if that's all the beast can manage. The creature leaps to attack, but she conjures a blue defensive magic, blocking it with a single finger. At that moment, she channels her power and delivers a blue aura punch. Her determined gaze meets the monster as it roars in pain, fiery energy erupting from its body. The creature becomes engulfed in flames while she steps back. The grandfather and the butler stare in disbelief at what they've just witnessed. The beast begins to glow and evolves into a C-rank mutant boar king. The grandfather seems to understand the situation while the rest simply watch. The blonde competitor laughs, happy to have one less rival, while the purple-haired girl studies the scene seriously. Seeing this, the protagonist and his sisters panic. Thinking he must avoid being discovered, he decides to use his secret move. He starts feeding from his mother, who complains about his awful timing. Then he suddenly spits out all the milk he drank. Furious, his mom shoves him away and yells at him for spitting on her yet again. The milk flies across the arena and draws the monster's attention. Smelling the essence, the beast becomes fixated and charges toward the woman surrounded by pink energy. The mother is stunned, unable to understand what's happening. She prepares to throw the MC, while the sisters ready themselves to fight. However, the Ling girl steps forward and tells them to leave it to her as a strange power forms in her hand. She summons multiple thorns that burst from the ground and wrap around the boar, completely restraining it. The grandfather and the butler watch in surprise. The mom is stunned as well and wonders what kind of wood-based divine awakening this is. The grandfather finds it interesting but says it still isn't on par with his grandson's, though he admits the girl's strength. The young competitor looks at her hand, now covered in red thorns, curious about the nature of the ability. The purple-haired girl is also surprised. The blonde competitor, however, reacts with disgust, saying she would never want to be wrapped in something like that. The grandfather explains that this ability can defeat higher-ranked creatures by draining their essence. The boar's life force gets sucked away, leaving behind only a skeleton. The butler asks what should be done with the girl, but the family head says he has a better plan. He looks at his grandson in his mother's arms, along with the two sisters, deciding to make the Ling girl the boy's future bride so they can obtain the Ling family's dowry. Her little sisters scream for her to release their brother. Ha's sister asks the youngest how she ended up with the huntress. Sanson looks like she's about to cry and can't respond. Because of this, the redhead starts scolding the little one for disappearing, giving her light taps she can feel. Our protagonist cuts them off, saying it isn't the right time and that the redheads of the Ling family are about to be wiped out. The huntress replies with a smile, saying she already knew. The boy and his sisters are stunned. The girl from the Tang family says she doesn't have much time and needs to tell them something important. They listen closely. She asks if they've awakened their systems. The protagonist and his sisters freeze at the question, but nod in confirmation. She explains they must have gained strange powers and abilities. His future wife smiles and asks if they truly believe in miracles. They all shake their heads in a cute way. She hugs little Sanson and says every miracle comes with a terrible price. The Triolinks are shocked. Little Sanson snuggles into the huntress's lap. The main character asks what she means. The young woman explains that the little girl lost her siblings and was left alone. Little Sanson suddenly remembers her sisters being taken away. Completely alone, she discovered her divine awakening was the ability to steal powers. With it, she could take divine awakenings and skills from others. In the chaos of that world, she became a villain feared by everyone. In the end, she found a way to return to the past, giving up all her power just to save the people she loved. The MC is shocked and asks if little Sanson was really reborn. The girl nods shyly. The huntress laughs and says the small girl is actually a ruthless demon. Sanson in her past life was feared by all. The young wife explains that the system interface is a mental projection from Sanson. The siblings look at their system screens, trying to understand. She continues, explaining that each time they use the system, it drains Sanson's power. As she says this, little Sanson releases an aura. The divine, awakening abilities they receive come from her research. In her past life, she nearly died many times to create them. The hero asks about his own divine awakening and how she obtained it. The young woman explains that Sanson sacrificed her power to save him from danger. To do that, she infiltrated the capital's core and defeated the head of the Mu family. She fought through countless hardships to get that power. With this revelation, they all rush to Sanson and pull her into a group hug. Together, they get emotional in a sweet moment. Little Sanson cries with happiness, reunited with her siblings again. The scene shifts to a shy-looking bar with a strange tune playing. Inside, a blonde girl is pole dancing. A blonde guy shows up and tries to flirt with her. The girl with heterochromia thanks him, calling him over. Suddenly, She swings her leg near his face. Without hesitation, he sniffs her foot, thinking it's amazing. A green-haired guy approaches and asks if the blonde has lost his mind. He realizes something is wrong as the man starts feeling dizzy. The duo reveal their true intentions with evil smiles. The blonde guy begs them not to hurt him. In a basement, the blonde guy is tied up while the woman torments him. She strikes an intimidating pose and smiles at him. A mysterious butler appears and tells him to spill everything with no lies. The butler puts on an intimidating expression. The blonde pleads for his life and says his mission was to stop a wave of beasts. The old man tells him to continue. He explains that after defeating the beasts, he got some money. The old man becomes furious, saying he should never have messed with his son. Desperate, the blonde insists it wasn't him, but 3 masked people. The old man becomes curious and asks who they were, where they came from, and their names. The guy says he doesn't know because he was far away and only saw 2 girls and a child. The old man is shocked to hear that description. He then asks which team he belongs to and who his captain is. He is startled to learn the blonde is from the red pomegranate team. With this information, he remembers a portal with powerful creatures. He then orders the woman to deal with the man. The prisoner screams, reminding them of their promise to let him go. Mercilessly, he gets smacked in the face with a platform shoe. The woman keeps her foot on his face. The old man says he promised not to torment him, but needed to make an example. He leaves the basement. In an instant, he appears atop a building in the night. He walks across the rooftop and notices cracks in the ground. He crouches and examines them, running his hand across the surface. Suddenly, the ground glows with strange energy. He moves to another spot to investigate. After analyzing everything, he reaches a conclusion. There is a flashback of him holding the protagonist's little sister while she was injured. He thinks this is important and needs to confirm his theory. The scene returns to the bar with neon lights. Inside, a blonde woman performs a sensual dance. A green-haired guy enters a room and addresses the hero's butler as Lord. The butler, sipping something warm, asks if he found new information. The man shows a photo and explains it was hard to track the target. He reveals the target was a D-ranked scrub who lived with 3 sisters and died 6 months ago. We get a close-up of the photo showing the hero's past life, him smiling with the 3 girls. The Lord studies it and confirms everything happened half a year ago. He remembers this was when the MC's parents went to hunt the Liu family's beast. We then see images from that mission, the one that caused the hero's downfall and led to the monster's appearance. The butler then remembers the 2 girls who protected our young man and the treasure he managed to get. Back in the present, the green-haired guy receives a brightly glowing blue orb of energy. He offers the item to his boss and thanks him for the reward he received. The butler then takes his leave and with a serious look vows to avenge his son. After that, the scene shifts to a baby bottle full of milk on a table. In the room, one of the sisters asks what's wrong with our young man, who is sitting there staring at the bottle. She watches him closely while he wonders why normal people only reach the peak of B rank while nobles go beyond. His sister kneels down and explains that the human limit really is B rank and that the system was created by the noble houses. She reveals that the goal was to create the illusion that nobles are superior and meant to rule everyone else. The 2 are shocked by the truth, and she says she learned this in her past life. In a flashback, we see that the little girl was once a powerful villainess and that the families in the capital know the secret to reaching S rank. She continues explaining that the 8 great clans controlling everything are hiding secrets to an even greater evolution. Our hero is stunned and asks what exists beyond S rank. The girl angrily replies that she doesn't know, but that the clans use awakened people like human power plants to fuel their own advancement. She says she wanted to destroy the world, but eventually found a way to save her brother and came back with the Huntress. The MC takes her hands and promises he will never leave her alone again. Hearing this, his sister says she and the others will fight by his side. She smiles with tears in her eyes as he comforts her. But suddenly, his fiancée kicks the door open and says their cute moment is about to be interrupted by a major crisis. The siblings look up, startled, wondering what happened. The fiancé explains that the old butler from the Liu family just brought someone over. Hearing this, the siblings exchange worried glances. With a smirk, she adds that the butler brought a man claiming to be the MC's mother's childhood friend. Our young man then asks what that has to do with the crisis. She replies that anything involving the butler bringing a friend of Lady Lu is suspicious. Elsewhere, we see the fiancé being instructed by a strict maid who says she must learn proper etiquette. The maid announces they will begin with posture, but the fiancé answers without enthusiasm, clearly bored. The maid scolds her for keeping her hands in her pockets, saying it's against house rules. Annoyed, the fiancé asks who the maid thinks she is to touch her. The maid proudly says she's a friend of Lady L, while in the background guards drag a young man away. In a close-up, we see the silver-haired man screaming in anger as he's hauled off. The maid says distractions like this are normal, and that nothing is more important than the engagement. Tired of it all, the fiancé sighs and says she understands. Then she casually flicks a small red object from her hand. The item shoots forward and sticks to the man's collar. A small white flower blossoms instantly, turning into a listening device. The fiancé smiles as an identical flower appears on her ear so she can listen in. Through the flower, she hears the man cursing out the butler and demanding to know who sent him. After gathering all the information she needs, she returns to the room and faces the two siblings. Our hero asks with a smile if the phantom bloodvine can also be used for spying. Smiling back, she explains that she and Sansen were a famous assassin duo. The protagonist's sister then asks what information she managed to get. The fiancé asks if the guy is his mom's lover and whether she had many affairs. Our boy looks shocked by the question, then confirms it, remembering seeing her with her lover even when he was still a fetus. He remembers that after he was born, his mother would always take him out just to meet that man. In his memory, he sees his mother walking with him in her arms, looking around cautiously. Then he remembers her being pulled into a fitting room by the man. The man hugs her, and she complains that the kid won't stop eating and is just so much work. Right after that, the two start to get very intimate. Meanwhile, our hero, who is in her arms, has an incredibly awkward expression on his face. The scene gets even steamier, and our boy can only sweat bullets from the awkwardness. Back in the present, his fiancée says this is normal and that his dad has lovers too. The protagonist then wonders why the butler would lock the guy up if this is so common. Faced with the question, his sister becomes very pensive about the whole situation. She looks at the fiancé, hoping for an answer. The sister says that maybe the Liu family suspects he isn't their real son. The fiancé agrees, saying it's very likely, as there would be no other reason to bring him in. With this revelation, our hero crosses his arms with a really annoyed look. But a moment later, he breaks into a confident smirk for the girls. He tells his sister not to worry because he has her reincarnation ability. His sister stares at him, surprised, her face blushing at his confidence. She then smiles and nods, agreeing with his assessment. Just then, the bedroom door suddenly flies open, interrupting the trio's conversation. Someone lets out a super loud scream as the three of them look at the door in surprise. Suddenly, the door bursts open and one of the sisters runs in, saying, "Master Liu sent for him." Our hero's fiancé smirks and comments that they finally arrived to handle the situation. Confused, the white-haired sister asks who has arrived and what the other girl is talking about. The fiancé gets closer and whispers something into our MC's sister's ear, leaving her completely shocked. The sister then asks, worried, if someone is trying to hurt her brother. The protagonist explains that the guy spread rumors about having an affair with his mom. His fiancée says that the Liu family treated the butler's brother like an adopted son and care a lot about their reputation. Still, Sister Ye is very worried, saying that high society families are treacherous. The fiancé comforts her, saying they are here and the little master isn't alone. Our young hero tells everyone to calm down, explaining that if they don't go, the situation will get much worse. He asks his sister to take him there, saying they'll just play it by ear. She picks him up and leaves the room while the other two watch. She takes him to her room and announces his arrival to her grandfather, who is sitting in an armchair. The head of the family waves his hand, dismissing the young maid from the room. The grandfather then takes his grandson onto his lap, and our young man smiles at him while his sister watches from distance. Haired sister lowers her head, looking very worried about what's going to happen. On his grandfather's lap, our little hero shakes his head, signaling for her not to worry. Receiving the message, the sister bows respectfully and leaves the room, leaving our hero alone with the other two. Just then, our MC's father bursts in shouting, asking why the old man summoned him. The grandfather stands up and complains that his son does nothing but fool around and can't even manage his own household. His father defends himself, saying he was just doing the networking the old man always asked for. In another room, our MC's mom's lover is getting a serious beatdown from someone mysterious. Soon, the grandfather arrives in a basement with his son and the little MC, where the butler awaits them. As they get closer, they see the mom's lover all tied up and bruised. The head of the family asks the butler to hold the baby, who is smiling at the whole situation. The older man hands the grandson to the employee, who receives him with a smile. In the butler's arms, our young man gives him a suspicious look while the old man gives a sinister smile. The grandfather asks if the prisoner has said anything, but the butler says no. Our MC's father leans in and asks with contempt what the guy had been bragging about. The grandfather reveals that the man was bragging about having an affair with his son's wife right under his nose. Furious, the MC's father yells that he's going to deal with the woman because his reputation with his friends is on the line. The grandfather cuts him off, saying they worked too hard to secure the arranged marriage. Still, the man tries to lunge forward, but the head of the family stops him from doing something stupid. With that, the grandfather orders a DNA test between the prisoner and his grandson to clear everything up once and for all. The butler then picks up the little master, who smiles because everything is going according to plan. He places the boy on a table and tells him not to be afraid, assuring him it will all be over soon. With a small device, the butler pricks the young man's finger to collect a blood sample. He then turns to the prisoner, saying that since they aren't related, he can act without hesitation. The butler reveals that his son's passing will be paid for with the lives of his siblings. Shocking our MC, the old man's face darkens, his eyes turning red, and the little one finally understands it was him. Our hero panics at the revelation, breaking out in a cold sweat as he realizes the terrible truth. The butler then turns with a cold, calculating look to continue with his plan. Our young hero wonders why the butler is so confident when the test isn't going to work. Just then, the machine starts beeping, and the old man announces with a smile that the results are finally in. Our MC, sweating bullets, anxiously awaits the DNA test result. His father asks what it was while the butler reads the paper. The grandfather watches everything with a serious face, and the boy grows tense. With a smile, the butler congratulates the master, saying the test result is negative. Desperate, the prisoner yells that it wasn't him, pleading for his life and begging to be let go. As for our young man's father, he just scoffs, not caring about the prisoner's situation. The butler then asks what to do with him so as not to tarnish the family's reputation. The head of the family stares at the prisoner with a cold gaze, but the boy's father points and says he wants to test his own son, just to be sure. Our hero panics, unsure what to do. The butler approaches and collects a blood sample from the boy's father. Right after, he approaches the little master with a blood sample in his hand. To buy time, our hero starts crying, pretending to be scared of the needle, flustering the butler as a drop of sweat runs down his face. The grandfather then holds his grandson's hand, telling him to take the vial of blood. On his grandfather's lap, the little hero squeezes his hand, wondering what he can do now. In his thoughts, his fiancée advises him to stay calm so he doesn't give himself away. With that, he decides to take the risk and opens his hand for the butler to draw his blood. The butler collects the blood from our MC, who is in his grandfather's arms. The old man places both samples in the machine to start the test. The machine beeps and prints out the DNA result. Anxious, the MC's father asks the butler for the result. The butler looks at the paper with a shocked expression, trembling as he stammers, unable to believe what he sees. Our little hero sees right through the act and calls him a cold fox in his thoughts. The butler quickly hands the result to the boy's father, who takes the paper and stares at it closely. His eyes glow green as he becomes completely shocked and furious. He yells that he's going to get rid of the boy and the woman and lunges forward. The grandfather stops him with a shout, preventing the attack, and lands a powerful slap across his face. The man is shocked, asking why the old man hit him. Meanwhile, the butler watches in astonishment. The head of the family calls him a fool, saying he already knew about all his affairs. Our hero's father defends himself, claiming it was just networking. With a dark look, the grandfather says that nothing bringing shame to the family should ever be done. The young man's father asks if they should pretend they don't know and waste resources on the boy. The grandfather replies that the boy has consumed a lot of resources and it's time for an evolution mission. The MC's father asks what that means. The grandfather explains that if the boy survives, he could become a great asset to the family, and adds that it's time for him and his wife to try for another child. Furious, our hero's dad screams that he hates the woman and is going to take her down. Grandpa lands a solid slap across his face again. Stunned, he asks why he was hit again. Holding his grandson, the head of the family calls him an idiot, bringing up the alliances. He says the daughter-in-law needs to have several kids to carry on the Liu family bloodline. The kid's dad, looking terrified, agrees. Meanwhile, the baby pretends to be asleep in his grandpa's arms, fooling them all. The butler looks like he's plotting something, his expression stone-cold and serious. The tied-up prisoner looks terrified and asks if he can leave now. Grandpa orders them to make him disappear, and the butler acknowledges the command. The desperate man pleads for his life. As the group walks away, our hero realizes he needs to use his cuteness to make his enemies lower their guard. With that, Grandpa starts lifting the little guy, who looks like he's having a blast. Right then, his furious father shows up, complaining about all the resources being spent. Grandpa tells him to shut it and go back to his room with his wife. The kid's dad agrees, looking seriously ticked off. Looking at our hero, Grandpa thinks the boy's entire future hinges on his performance. A little later, the white-haired sister takes the little guy back to his room. When he gets there, the other girls are waiting and ask what went down. Our hero reveals that the butler was the mastermind behind the whole scheme. They're completely stunned and ask why he would do such a thing. He explains that the butler found out about his own son and set a trap. The redhead sister starts panicking, jumping up and saying they need to pack their stuff and get out of there. But our hero's fiancé grabs her and tells her to chill out, saying they wouldn't get far anyway. The redhead clenches her fists and declares that if they can't run, they'll fight. The other two immediately grab her, telling her not to be so reckless. His fiancé then asks our hero how the three sisters can be so different from each other. He smiles at her question, staying silent for a moment. He says Ye always looked after the others, which made her the most mature, and that in turn made Xuangu a bit more naive and innocent. He says Sansun was always tagging along behind them like a little echo. His fiancé says they're perfect together and that forming a family was a true blessing. Staring off into space, she continues, saying she never understood Sansun's decision before, but now it seems our hero is finally starting to understand. She smiles and says she's really envious of their bond. The little guy gets super happy and smiles at his fiancé's comment. He then gets serious and asks what they're going to do now since they're safe for the time being. Clapping her hands, his fiancée calls everyone for a family meeting. The three sisters, who were playing on the floor, look up at her confused. Shuang asks since when they became a family and starts complaining to San. The fiancé points out she's practically their sister-in-law and asks little Sansun if she agrees. The three sisters get super annoyed at her nerve. A moment later, our hero is caught off guard as his angry sisters pull him away. They tell him he doesn't need a sister-in-law and that they all promise to stick together forever. Little Sansun gets super flustered and doesn't know what to say. Furious, our hero yells at his sisters to stop bickering right now. He then orders all three of them to sit down, and they immediately obey. After the scolding, the two sisters sit there with their cheeks puffed out in anger. Seeing the whole scene, his fiancée can't help herself and bursts out laughing. Our MC asks if it's been so long since he disciplined them that they've gotten this rebellious. His fiancée gently pats his head and says it seems he doesn't really understand them. He shoots back that he raised them since they were little, so of course he knows them inside and out. Winking at him, his fiancée says what he really doesn't understand is women. At this, the three sisters get totally dejected looks on their faces. Annoyed, he tells her not to treat him like a kid because he's actually way older. Everyone sits down on the floor to finally start the family meeting. His fiancée explains that the secret to evolution is controlled by the noble clans. Our hero and his sisters listen intently. She says families like theirs are just tools, and that the first stage of evolution comes from a special fruit. This fruit supposedly grows in other worlds and is guarded by incredibly powerful monsters. She explains that dragons even protect the fruit. Hearing this, Shuang Shuang gets angry, saying that's basically sending their brother to get himself killed. But the fiancé says since they're from the future, they're prepared for it. She adds that if they play to each other's strengths, they can survive, and everyone agrees. Later that night at the family mansion, our hero's dad shows up looking seriously annoyed. He's hitting the bottle hard as he wanders alone through the halls of the massive estate. He stumbles toward his wife's bedroom door. Without a second thought, he kicks the door in and barges into the room. The kid's mom is in a pool with one of her maids. Furious, she orders her husband to get out, telling him he reeks of booze. The husband lunges forward and tries to kick her, but the maid jumps in the way, managing to block the strike with her leg. The force of the impact knocks the maid into the pool water. Our hero's mom screams at her husband, asking what the heck he thinks he's doing. He grabs her hard, calling her a little vixen right to her face. Remembering his grandfather's dark expression, he recalls the words, "Nothing should be done to bring shame upon the family." He remembers his grandfather telling him that no matter what, it was time for him to have another child with his wife. The husband pulls her close and says it's been a while since she's taken care of him. He forcefully grabs the towel wrapped around her and yanks it away, leaving her completely exposed in the pool. Furious, the woman screams at him, asking what he's doing. Tearing off his shirt, he says they're going to make more babies for the good of both our families. The two of them start to get busy in the pool, her feet curling in the water as the scene unfolds. The red-haired girl says the trial is dangerous, so they need to be seriously prepared for what's coming. Hearing this, our hero says they'll split up. He'll go get the miraculous milk that will work as a healing potion. Meanwhile, the black-haired maid explains she'll head out and buy some gear for the upcoming mission. Our boy asks his sisters to keep an eye on the mansion's butler. The two maids agree, promising to watch the man so he doesn't get in their way. Ichan gets ready for his part of the plan, strapping a milk storage bottle to his body. He walks up to his mother's bedroom door and starts making baby noises to get her attention. From inside, his dad yells at the woman, complaining that she fights the baby for milk every single day. Our protagonist finds it super weird that his dad still follows the old man's orders after everything that's happened. But with 6 fingers on his hand, he decides there's no time to waste and needs to grab the milk immediately. Using his electric powers, he phases through the door at incredible speed like a yellow lightning bolt. I can dive straight for his mom. His mom is totally surprised, asking what the heck they're both doing since she sprung a leak. Xuan, the father, glares furiously while our boy's face ends up covering the milk he just snagged. In a flashback, the grandfather scolds his son for wasting the family's resources on nothing but parties. The boy's father looks pretty ticked off. Despite the scolding, he leans in and starts drinking the breast milk too. Their mother screams that they're both nuts and that the fighting is driving her completely crazy. Meanwhile, the girls walk through town to buy gear for the mission. When they reach a shop, a huge guy tells them to scram, saying it's no place for brats. The black-haired maid agrees with her friend, adding that guys like him always look down on others. The shopkeeper gets furious at their comment, raises his fist, and prepares to swing at the girls. Before he can act, a bag of coins flies out of nowhere and smacks him in the face. The impact makes his nose bleed, and he gets super ticked off. He looks down at the counter and sees the bag with several shiny gold coins scattered across it. Seeing the money, his attitude does a complete 180, and he awkwardly apologizes for the mess. The girl smiles confidently and tells him to bring out the good stuff, because they don't want any junk in his shop. Back at the mansion, the maids pretend to clean the floor while keeping an eye on the butler walking down the hall. They follow him from a distance, then stand in front of a closed door, unsure what to do next. Carefully, they press their ears against the door to listen. Inside, the grandfather is in the middle of a magic circle, opening a huge fiery portal with his energy. He says his grandson's talent is exceptional and that he must go through a trial to surpass his limits. Ichin realizes they want to get rid of everyone else to make way for the family's new heir. With a confident smile, the red-haired girl says she'll take great care of him during the journey. The group of kids walks toward the big red portal to begin the dangerous trial. From a distance, the grandfather and the butler watch them. The butler flashes a sinister, dark smile, revealing he has a secret plan of his own. The group arrives in a new world with an incredible landscape full of glowing plants and a lake at the top of a mountain. The girls are amazed by the beauty of the place, and the red-haired maid says, "The other world is gorgeous." Our boy warns everyone to stay focused because no place around here is safe. Sun asks where the evolution fruit is, and he explains they need to find the beast that guards it. He then thanks Sanson for communicating with everyone. He lifts her dress, getting ready to start the plan they came up with. She reveals several bottles full of milk strapped to her leg, almost like a utility belt, and she throws one of the bottles onto the ground. The group quickly scatters, everyone running to their assigned positions. Our boy and the other girl hide behind massive rocks near the large lake, while on the opposite side, the two maids also take cover behind a rock, waiting for the plan to work. The milk from the broken bottle spreads across the ground, serving as bait. Just then, our hero receives a message from the red-haired girl. "We've got movement." Ripples and bubbles start appearing on the lake's surface. The plan worked perfectly. The fruit's guardian is finally approaching. A giant purple serpent emerges, its scales like armor and eyes glowing a piercing blue. It stares at the spilled milk on the shore, then begins swimming calmly toward the bait. Our hero's eyes widen as a message identifies it. Rank of venomous serpent. The red-haired girl reassures him that it's just a rank A, and they can handle it since they've already defeated a rank B. Our boy calls her an idiot, explaining the power gap is huge and they don't stand a chance. The other girl is surprised that Yin can recognize such a rare creature. He explains that his talent was low, so he studied relentlessly to survive and reunite with his sisters. A flashback shows him fighting and training hard to take care of his 3 younger sisters. Hearing this, the girls are deeply moved, sending a flurry of crying emojis. He then sends another message, telling him to look closely at the serpent's body. The older girl notices it too, frustrated that of all places, it had to grow there. Our protagonist is shocked, wondering how this could happen. The giant serpent now floats in the lake, and right on its head glows the evolution fruit, like a small golden sun. The older girl grimly says their plan to lure the beast and grab the fruit is toast. The maid suggests using an ability to drain the serpent's life force bit by bit until it's defeated, but our hero explains that the creature is too strong and fast for that to work. He hushes everyone as the serpent roars toward the milk on the sand. Suddenly, it lunges, slamming its head onto the ground where the bottle lies, then lifts its head and swallows the bottle along with a chunk of the earth. With a confident smile, Ichin announces he has a new idea and tells everyone to listen. He records a voice message explaining the strategy, and everyone confirms they understand. The older girl asks how he gained the trust of the girls so easily. Our protagonist replies that he got lucky. They saved him from despair and gave him a reason to live. With determination, he adds that he failed to protect them in the past, so now he will risk his life for them. She is touched, saying it's an honor to have met all of them in this life, giving a gentle smile. Ichan stands, yelling to everyone that it's time to move. The girls shout back in unison, "We got it!" Our hero and his Fian run to grab the serpent's attention, while the 2 maids run in another direction as part of the distraction. Little Sansun runs toward a safe spot, taking part in the strategy. The creature surveys the landscape, the evolution fruit glowing on its head. It notices the spilled milk on the sand, sniffs it, and tries to resist, but eventually charges full speed toward the lake's edge. It strikes the spot with force, then lifts its head and swallows more milk along with stones. The monster notices milk spilled in nearby bushes, giving our hero and his Fian a chance to run with additional bottles. A message pops up. The sisters praise their younger brother's plan. The maids also run with more bottles to continue the mission. The red-haired sister complains in a message about the milk being wasted. The protagonist Fian sends a message telling everyone to look at the serpent's belly. The red-haired maid notices the massive, bloated belly and comments that it all seems too easy. Our hero explains the priority. Survive first, then find an opening. The creature thrashes in the water while he notes that without plans like this, he'd have been toast hundreds of times. His Fian tells everyone to focus. The monster is slowing. With the signal, the three maids prepare for the next phase. Suddenly, something emerges from the protagonist's shadow. A man in a suit appears, attempting to strike him from behind. His Fian warns him and pulls him back using her ability. Just as the shadow is about to hit, our hero is yanked away. He recognizes the attacker. It's the butler, and asks how he got there. His Fian suspects a divine awakening, asking if it was activated when they left. A flashback shows the grandfather explaining that his grandson is talented and must pass this test. Meanwhile, the scene shows the group leaving while the butler enters the shadows, revealing himself as a shadow clone. He declares that he's there to avenge his son, and that if it weren't for him, the group might have actually survived this trial. Hearing this, everyone shouts to finish him. The boy then channels his lightning power, combining it with the girl's vine of thorns. A massive lightning spear shoots toward the butler's clone, but the attack passes right through him. The clone begins fading into the shadows, leaving the duo in shock, unable to comprehend what just happened. The clone moves through the shadows toward them, but the protagonist's Fian grabs him and leaps away. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the area, alerting the maids, who are far off. Frantic messages flood in from the maids, worried about their brother and his Fian. The noise catches the serpent's attention. It turns toward the explosion and spots the boy and his Fian. At that moment, the butler's clone reappears, vowing vengeance for his son, then vanishes again. The serpent, now furious, charges at them, forcing them to sprint for their lives. The chase is close, too close. The serpent nearly catches them, its speed overwhelming. Yet, they notice the strategy worked. The creature is slower now. Out of nowhere, a message pops up. Split up. Following the instruction, they separate. The serpent retaliates by shooting venom at them. Thinking quickly, the boy and his Fian execute a high-five maneuver to propel themselves apart. The venom strikes the ground, corroding everything it touches and forming a trench that separates the two. Panic sets in. The boy asks his Fian what they should do, but there's no time to plan. The creature reappears, jaws wide, ready to devour him. Despair floods him, mirrored in his Fian's expression. Just then, one of the sisters throws a flashbang and yells for her brother to close his eyes. He obeys. The flashbang, crafted from a radiant bird crystal, detonates with a blinding intensity. The light is so powerful that even his Fian complains about the brightness, while the serpent roars in pain and confusion, blinded by the dazzling burst. Seizing the moment, one sister scoops up the boy, sprinting away as the creature continues its deafening roar. His Fian clutches her ears tightly, struggling against the sonic assault, while the hair-haired sister shields the boy from the sound. The boy can feel the monstrous vibrations radiating through the ground, but then a voice message arrives. Attack the serpent's bloated stomach. Now!